Most first-time home buyers aren't afraid of houses. They're afraid of making mistakes. They have fears like, oh, what if I'm buying at the wrong time? What if something crazy comes up on inspection? What if I'm really stretching my budget? I don't want to get stuck in a bad neighborhood. What if I get pressured into buying this house? Those things are all common fears that people have when they're buying their first house. And I can tell you that they always seem to be a bigger problem than they actually are. I mean, when you look at buying at the wrong time, my advice is always this: buy under your budget, buy a place that you can stay in and you're not going to be forced to leave, and buy something that you're comfortable in, but don't buy the most expensive house that you can afford. Because that way, if something were to happen, you would be able to weather it out, and the market has typically always climbed. Now, there may be some valleys in there you might have to weather out. That's why you want to make sure that it's a house that you're comfortable staying in for a few years. Inspection surprises, that's really just part of the process. There's not anything that is super surprising, honestly, that, I mean, you're buying a house, there's always going to be things that can get done. The seller does have a right to cure, which means that if there is something that would be like a deal breaker, they can actually get it fixed. And that way, that it's fixed as the buyer, and that there's no more defects in the house. And then you're able to still buy it and get into that house. What actually matters is staying under budget. What I tell people is, if they're pre-approved for $300K, try to keep some wiggle room in there, because you don't want to be sitting right at the very, very top of that pre-approval unless you're expecting to have, more income coming in the next 6 to 12 months. You want to make sure you have cash reserves. That's really, really important, because now you are buying a house. So whether you buy a brand new house or a house that's a few years old or a house that's built in the 50s, there's always going to be things that have to get done. Now, maybe some are things that have to get done and some are things that you want to get done, but you want to keep those cash reserves so that you're able to make those improvements or do that work when the time presents. Let's see, resale. This is a really, really important one. You want to be able to sell that house when it comes time to either downsize or upsize, depending on which way your family's growing. It's very important to be able to have a house that is going to create some demand, because you don't know what the market's going to be when it's time to sell. So having a house in a nice neighborhood, having a house that shows really well, that you took care of, something that if you're handy you can update, or you keep enough cash on hand that you can do that, have somebody do the updates, just so that when you go to sell it, it's going to show good and it's going to be something that creates that drive for people to want it. It's important to stay comfortable when you're doing this, because you don't want to feel like you're overextended. Now, obviously, this is a process. You're going to feel like there's all kinds of new stuff being thrown at you. You're going to feel like you don't know exactly what to do, and that's going to be uncomfortable, but it's important that you find somebody who can help you through that. Maybe that's a parent, maybe that's your agent, which actually they should be helping you. You want to have good representation. You want to be able to have somebody who's been through this before, somebody who's done it on their own, and somebody who knows the answers to the questions. And if they don't, they'll find them and make sure that you know exactly what's going on throughout the transaction. So even in a fast-moving market, I try to slow people down so that they can make smart buying decisions that they won't regret.